Hey guys, it's James from James' Reptiles, and today I'm going to be talking about should you keep leopard geckos. Alright, so the scientific name is Eublepharis macularius. I believe, if I'm pronouncing that wrong, someone don't say anything. I'm going to be referencing my girls Lefty and Righty for this video. So you can see right up here I got my helix, and it's set at 89 right now. It's set to 90. When I have the fan on, it hits 89. That's just the way it goes. It's just life, I guess. That's about where I would keep them. Leopard geckos are extremely easy, especially if you have a rack system. I clean the tubs maybe once a month. Sometimes I let it go a month and a half. But let me flip the camera around and I'll show you everything I got in there and check it out. Alright, so I got two hides. I got one in the back by the heat. I got one a little further up. You can see they're both chilling there. It's a pretty warm day, so that makes sense. Usually one of them at least chills in there. I got this little cactus just as decoration. It was just, I got it as a free thing in a goodie bag, so I threw it in there. I got a nice big water bowl, and I got a food dish. There's always calcium and vitamins sitting at the bottom of it. I have the little lids people use as like extra calcium dishes. I just haven't put them in here yet because I keep forgetting. So I'm gonna do that. And the way I feed my geckos is once a week on Monday, I feed them all mealworms. These guys get a lot because they kind of eat a lot. These two are really good eaters. And then usually on a second day a week, maybe Thursday or Friday, I'll go through and I'll feed them all some dubia roaches. I'll feed them off the tongs, or I'll throw some crickets in. And these guys go nuts for crickets. All leopard geckos, fat tails too, they go bazonk for crickets. That's why I don't even feed my fat tails crickets. If you feed fat tails crickets, they're not even gonna want to eat mealworms. So my fat tails strictly eat mealworms and dubia. But this video ain't about them. This is about little leopard geckos. Let me take them out, show you just how easy it is to hold your leopard gecko. Now, they do need the heat, so I wouldn't recommend holding them for too long, especially if your house gets kind of cold. But you can see for the most part, most leopard geckos aren't aggressive. There are some that if you're reaching your hand in, they might try to bite you, but once you get them out, they're usually pretty tame. And that goes for most of them. I've had some that'll bite, and I've had some that just don't care. Now this is a male leopard gecko. I know a lot of you can't really tell. One way to tell is you look underneath. You see those two big bulges, and let me see if I can get them. You can, yeah, hold on. You see the two big bulges and those little pores right there? That'll let you know usually it's a male. There's every once in a while you get a female that kind of has them, and it's hard to tell. But after working with so many, the base of the tail and the base of the neck, I can just tell from above that this is a male gecko. Now you can see this Pacific gecko is missing some toes. If I move him over here, you can see he's missing the little eye, kind of like an eyelash, but whatever you call it. He actually got in a fight with another leopard gecko, and if you keep a bunch of geckos, it'll probably happen eventually. I just had a barrier in between mine, and at one point one got into the other's cage, and I heard tussling in the night, and I woke up and there was blood, and they were in the same cage. Now, it's not something anyone wants to happen, but it's one of those things in life where if it happens, there's not much you can do about it at that point. But leopard geckos are super friendly, except when it's two males, and they make really good pets. Sometimes they make little noises. One thing I love about leopard geckos, and I can't show you because I just cleaned all mine recently, is that for the most part, they'll all poop in one corner. And that's really great, especially if you don't want to clean them that often, or you have a child that doesn't want to clean them that often. Speaking of which, leopard geckos are pretty cheap. You can get them as cheap as $30 from like a Petco if you have like a member card or whatever they have. And the setup for a leopard gecko maybe $80, $100 if you do everything right. Of course, you don't want the heat bulb. Whoever tells you you want a heat bulb, they're wrong. You want a heat mat. Leopard geckos don't bask. They actually get their heat from their belly. So you want the heat from underneath. And one thing a lot of people don't like about leopard geckos and why they go with crested geckos, which is another first pet reptile, is that leopard geckos actually require live insects. I don't recommend dried mealworms at all. Live mealworms, live crickets. You don't have to feed crickets. Your crested gecko, your leopard gecko can live its whole life just on mealworms, but you have to make sure you supplement with calcium and vitamins. You want, I believe, 1 part calcium, 3 parts vitamin. That might be backwards. I'd have to double check. But they are amazing little animals. One thing a lot of people love about leopard geckos is if you have a big enough tank, you can keep more than one together, especially if you have females. I wouldn't recommend for beginners that you have a male and a female, because the male will end up breeding the female if you don't have the space to take them apart. And that can be no good. You can stress the female out, she can lose a bunch of weight. You don't have to cool them. A lot of people say you have to cool your leopard geckos. That's more if you're just trying to breed, it'll set them off to breed. But as pets, you don't have to do that. One thing I hear a lot on the internet, and I've left a couple of groups because people get so Facebook warrior about it, people will argue that you have to have at least 20 gallons for one leopard gecko. And now, while that's nice and it's great, and your leopard gecko would do fine in that, they're not worried about having that too much space, you'd be just fine with 10 gallons. You can keep 2 in 10 gallons. That's a 28 quart. It's probably got the floor space of a 20 gallon, but it's super short. And I keep 3 in them. I keep 3 at a time in there, sometimes 4 if I need to. The gecko I just showed you that had gotten into a fight is my very first leopard gecko, and you learn a lot when you get your first one. You keep more, and you start to learn about how other people keep them. When I first got it, I did not know much about leopard geckos, and I was that new guy, and I was not willing to reach out for help on how to do everything. So I had him as a baby in a 2.5 gallon, and I'm not proud to say this, but I kept him in that 2.5 his whole life up until he was an adult, and then I moved out of my grandparents' house where I had more room, and I gave him his own. He's got 14 quarts now, which is about the size of 10 gallon. And people will argue that they can't survive in something smaller than a 20 gallon, but literally something that's, I don't know, 8 times smaller, and he thrived to adulthood. Of course, I took him out all the time. He got lots of roaming time. The heat mat was on half his tank, on the side of the tank, and he had 1 hide, a food dish, and a water dish. But you know what? He did great. And I'm not going to argue with anyone on that. I'm just going to tell you my experience. And of course, I don't recommend you raising it in a 2.5. I'd say if you have a baby and you want to put it in a tank, a 5.5 would be just fine. And then as it becomes an adult, maybe you want a 10 gallon. And then you have the 5.5, you get another baby in. And that's kind of how it goes with reptiles. You upgrade your gecko in a new enclosure, and you have this old enclosure. All of a sudden you have an empty space to put another gecko. And that's how you end up like me, with, I don't know, 30 geckos of different species. Anyway, I'm going to show you some eggs I just collected yesterday and how I did that. I'm going to pause this, make a second clip of me saying goodbye, and I'll catch you when you check out those eggs. Okay, so this video would have been perfect for tomorrow because I already had one for today, but that's not how nature works. I was feeding my crested geckos and I noticed the dirt was mounded up, so I went in and I found a couple of eggs. I'm going to show you how I used to set up my crested gecko eggs and how I'm going to start doing it as of today. So the old way I used to set up my crested gecko babies was just like this. It was a tub, it was a deli cup. I put one tiny little hole in it right there, and I filled it up with this hatchite, which is essentially just perlite. I'm not really sure what makes it hatchite. I don't know. Basically perlite, just not as dusty, already wet. But I would put a bunch of crested gecko eggs in here. And I was writing the dates on them at first, and then it just kind of got carried away. There was a bunch of eggs, and this is about the emptiest it's looked in a little bit because there were just a bunch of eggs in it. And as I'm getting more adults, I'm going to start having more eggs, so it's not going to be practical anymore. One big problem was when a gecko hatched, I didn't know who the parents were. I didn't know when it was laid, and it would also kick the other eggs around for however long it sat in there. So today I'm going to start a new little method. I'm probably not going to do this one long term, probably just I have these little cups and these little lids. I don't really use the lids for anything, so instead of throwing away, I'll just do this until I think of something else, maybe like a tackle box like I see in other people. I think Tiki's Geckos, so it's a tackle box style. But until I decide I want to do that or figure out exactly how I'm going to do that, I'm going to do these little cups. And I did one for my African fat tails, and I'm going to do one for my crested geckos, and I'm going to show you exactly how I do that today. Alright, so like I said, I've used this before. It works pretty good from what I could tell. It's the only one I've used. This Pangea hatch, which I thought was called hatchite for whatever reason, a buddy of mine uses, and it works really well. I incubate these geckos, so I see how well it works. I got a big bag of this to try it. I do have a little bit left in here, probably enough for 1 or 2 of these little containers, but I am not going to be trying more of that. I'm going to be showing you how I do this one. Alright, so first things first, I got my little 2-ounce cup, and I'm going to poke a couple little holes in it with my knife. If I get it open with one hand, there we go. So I'm just going to right in the center. Just do one. That's all you need. At least in my opinion, that's all you need. So I got one hole. Now I'm going to write the date and the parent. So today's date is 6/22. Let me double check that real quick. That's correct, 6/22. The dad is 1801, that's his gecko number. And the mom is one of those 2 moms, unknown. I think that's all I want to write down. I can't quite remember off the top of my head. I've been making lists of I want to keep track more, but for now that's what I'm going to write. So I'm going to cut that bag open, put a little bit in here, and we'll get back to you. Alright, so I got my bag all opened. It looks pretty dry. It'll actually turn more vibrant as you add water. I'm not going to rinse it, and I'm not going to strain it, even though the instructions say to. That's just not really my style. If I'm being honest with you, I think it'll be fine. So I'm just going to put that right there. Move my bag over here. And I got my little water thing. Let's just add a little bit of water. See the dust coming off of it. That's pretty funny. Maybe you do need to soak it. No, that'll be fine. Okay, let me get the eggs. Oop, I dropped it. Just wipe a little bit of this eco earth off. And right now I'm not really worried about the embryo and where it's sitting. I can come back in another day and worry about it. Put them just like that, and then get my handy dandy marker. Just give them a little boop, boop, give me a little bigger boop. And there you go. Alright, so here are my 3 geckos. These are the parents to those eggs you saw. Right there, that really nice one, that's the male. He's a partial pinstripe. Got the kneecaps and the thigh thing. There's that mom. She's got a little bit of kneecaps and thighs. She's not quite as nice. I think she's the mom to those eggs though, just because of how thick this girl still is. And she's as well partial pin. They were just, the male was just biting on this girl right here, and she just pooped on me, so that was lovely. But 2 months, I'll probably make an update video on those eggs, and we'll see what comes out of them. I'm back. I'm James from James's Reptiles. If you like the video, like it, subscribe, follow me on Instagram, James's Reptiles, Twitter, James's Reptiles, @gmail.com, James's Reptiles, Facebook, James Welter. And if you have any questions, leave a comment. If you want to finish watching the video and you're done, then okay, bye.